He's the officer on special duty for the government of Orissa. He looks after the sports projects of the Orissa government, which has been in the forefront of sports development in the country. He's a professional.
You're cracking up. We can't hear you. I can't hear
Can
you.
you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes,
Much better.
of course. Yeah.
So we welcome the Mizoram Sports Minister, Dr. Rohit. We're all discussing that he owns a football team, Aizawl FC, which were the National League champions in 2017. He also has the best sports cars in Mizoram. So that's a kind of statement that how sporty he is. We also welcome Mr. Sumit Pandey. He's an officer on special duty for the government of Orissa and has been in the forefront of all the sports projects. He's a professional, studied in Oxford, obviously knows things about how things have been done. I obviously welcome Ranjit Wakapu. He's also a known man. People are talking cricket. Of course, he is here as the chairman of the Northeastern Advisory Council. So we will hear from him a little later. Last but not the least, Rajesh Kharbanda. His Nivea footballs, the balls that he made, the footballs that he made, very popular across the country. I come from West Bengal. At one stage, I of course live in Delhi now. The Nivea footballs were rage and still are. And I would like to welcome Sanjog Gupta. Sanjog has been a colleague and a friend, and he is now the chair of the Cricket Sports Council. So welcome, Sanjog, James, Mr. Kharbanda, Mr. Ranjit Wakapu, Sumit Pandey, and of course, the Minister from Mizoram, Robert Rohit. I can see that Sandeep Singh has joined in. Is that so, Pankaj? I think Mr. Singh is in. He seems to be in mute. Can you unmute, please? Yeah. Sandeep, can you hear us?
जिनके पब्लिक से मिले थे ना भाई घर के लिए, वो फैमिली के लिए, वो फैमिली आई है तो टाइम मिल जाए थोड़ा सा, वो इस चक्कर में ये मीटिंग स्टार्ट हो गई।
संदीप, आपको सुनाई दे रहा है? Okay, get Sandeep in at some stage. But the topic of discussion today, we can see Sandeep now. Sandeep, can you see us? Can you hear us? Sandeep, आपको सुनाई दे रहा है?
I can see. Hello, Sumita Boji, नमस्कार.
हाँ, नमस्कार संदीप. आप कैसे हैं? Welcome to the show.
बहुत बढ़िया. थोड़े व्यस्त चल रहे हैं लेकिन स्वस्थ हैं, सही हैं.
बस ठीक है. आपके लिए रेस क्या है? आप तो ड्रैग फ्लिकर है. आप जो स्पीड में ड्रैग फ्लिक करते थे वो ऑस्ट्रेलियंस भी संभाल नहीं पाते थे. We have an Australian in the show, so we'll ask him at some stage.
जी.
The topic we are talking with, the discussion is on states driving growth through private investments in sport. That's the topic today. Before we get on with all the discussion, I will request Ranjit to give a welcome address.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies that are on the show watching us. I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome my good friend, Honorable Minister of Sports, Government of Mizoram, Robert Rohit. Rohit has been a pioneer and one of the pillars of transformation of sport in the faraway Northeast and especially in Mizoram. And he basically, along with the Chief Minister of Mizoram, are the first state in India to have created what they call an industry status for sports, which means that you have that many more incentives to invest in industry. We are planning to have a larger program with him very soon, and we look forward to the entire value chain being covered. I'm so happy to see one of my favorite states, if not both my favorite states, Orissa and Haryana, on the panel. And welcome Honorable Minister Sandeep Singh Ji, Sports Minister of Haryana. Namaste. आपको welcome कर रहा हूँ. I'm also happy to see that we are joined by Mr. Vishal Kumar Deb, Commissioner and come Secretary of Sport Youth of Orissa. And Orissa, like the Northeast, has many sporting talents. and you are playing a very important role in the development of sport in Odisha and for India. We are also joined by James Sutherland, a famous cricket administrator, leader, also cricketer from Australia. He's chairman of Play HQ and Sanjog Gupta, cricket's chair for FICCI Sports Committee, and also head of Star Production, and a good friend, Mr. Rajesh Karbanda, MD Nivea, and Kartile K. Sharma, founder of Prosportify, as panelists. A warm welcome to you on behalf of FICCI, and a very warm welcome to all other participants that have joined from other parts of the country and possibly some parts of the globe. Sports development is an important part of education and health. As experts would say, no better leader than yourself to know that the area of sports and sports development is generally understood to include physical activity that go beyond competitive sport. The value chain of sports in the history of sport and its help to education and team building, education in children and youth development, peace building, it handles disabilities in people. It's a great disaster response, good for physical and mental health and gender neutralization, sustainable development, child protection and featuring in sports. Ladies and gentlemen, sports not only is a source of entertainment, physical well-being, it's one of the most leading economic activities in the world. And just to set context for today in welcoming you, I thought I'd just throw a few figures so that we would be guided by those figures and motivate, especially as the focus is states of India, I presume, which are driving private capital, if not the public-private partnership. In 2019, the global sports industry reached about 700 billion, and there's a growth rate of roughly 6.4%. Development of sports as a industry has a great multiplier, if not a trickle-down effect. And I believe that this multiplier and trickle-down effect does help everybody to sort of garner support so that everybody has a finger in their pie or some kind of stake. We've seen investments in sports growing a lot from the Middle East and even in China. And I think it's important that both, whether it be the NBA, which has actually transformed the investment and return pattern of sport, there is a big growth of the entire investment area of sport, meaning everywhere in the world. And it's forecasted that it's likely to grow at 10 to 15%. Recent investments, even of people like Silver Lake, I think is a great example of CDC of how they are picking up stakes in Asia. And they feel that Asia Pacific, Asia, Australia are likely to be sort of examples. Australia, of course, no doubt leads in the area of sports, and there's a lot to be emulated from Australia. They are truly a sporting nation and a sporty nation, I reckon. But they have actually their value chain and deliverables in all of this. In India, it's a much lower situation in terms of the hierarchy of needs, but slowly but surely, thanks to cricket, there is a predominant sort of growing need in families to say their son has to be a cricket. And I think Star have helped in a great way by popularizing and communicating the leagues which are around badminton, around boxing, around wrestling, around kabaddi. And I think these local sports, because sports is not sort of uncommon in India, not new, it's quite time immemorial. So I think that we just need to dip into all of this. Quite naturally, I would like to speak about the Northeast because that's my passion, that's where I come from, and that's where I've been trying to work with them. And therefore, we tried to actually also put the IPL stuck in there this time. It didn't happen, but the reality is at least our stadium facilities have improved considerably, and it's probably considered one of the better stadiums. I also believe that the sports infrastructure is growing phenomenally well, and Mizoram leads the entire process. In Mizoram, I'm involved as the chief what you call chairman of actually the Tata Trust in the Northeast, and we have actually invested in badminton right from the grassroots level, even the football in every district actually, in trying to make this a remunerative business. I think the minister will talk about his own experiences, his own deliverables. We really need more money coming in to see that the value chain is totally actualized. I do believe that in the Northeast, there are two things that we need to couple. One is ecology and tourism, and the other is sports with education. And I think sports and education being coupled is very, very important because so that people don't feel insecure and they don't have a family strife of saying that they're not being educated without a degree. So the sports degree or a normal degree while they're doing sports will be there. I recently gave a conversation I had on education and the changing facet of education. And in the changing facet of education, studying from home, studying from home is likely to be very important. And studying from home means more spare time for sport. So I just think we are on the anvil of a very great revolution that is likely to take place. During the last decade, the Northeast has been able to provide sportsmen despite poorer facilities than that of Haryana, Punjab, and the northern parts, including Bangalore. And I think whether it is the situation of from boxing, athletics, right down to football, I think there has been a whole plethora of people that have been coming in to sport. But more importantly, Northeast is quite gender neutral, and there are as many successful women and ladies as there are men. So in this investment, we must actually look at the situation of seeing that we encourage the youth, which are both boys and girls, in the entire value chain of sports. I believe focus is important, and that focus is a collective decision we need to take. What we really need to do is create a plan for 2030, or if there is already a plan, use it. I reckon India, we are quite good at making plans and shelving it. So I think Robert will be able to highlight much more on that, on the planning. But I think the Northeast must have a plan. The Northeast must identify badminton, football, just four items, including athletics, as the focus area. They should create a Northeast Developmental Fund with a bond. They should create a Northeast linked sports plan, all driven by the private sector. And I think they should create a whole value chain explaining how important the multiplier, which goes between 4 to 8 times, starting from vehicles, tourism, hotels, to actually drive this whole thing. I reckon that in 2030, that it wouldn't be impossible to have 2 or 3 million people actually in the sports vertical. Today, it is less than 100,000. I think we have 47 million people now, and that is likely to grow to 54 million in 2030. So the infrastructure is something that they're building. I think we need to give them enough inputs now to create the right infrastructure. So people like BCCI who are giving them funds are actually just giving them funds, but the infrastructure, the selling, the actual monetization of the stadium, and the entire value chain of that is not understood. So I'm sure that FICCI, we can play a role. I think we have done a lot of grassroots initiatives in terms of district-wise athletics, football, depending on the state, badminton. And Robert, again, is a leader in this whole process because he came from nowhere and actually they came to win the league. So a lot to be said. I think cricket is, again, very important, meaning we in Rajasthan Royals have taken the only player that actually came in to the auctions called Parag. So Rian Parag. So he plays for our team primarily that the fact that he's good, not just because that he's from Assam. I believe that we need to have that many more people, and the sport must be developed with pride for everybody. Last but not least, while we're focusing on sport, we should parallelly run what Mizoram is doing, create an industry to take it out of the very conservative rules and regulations that you have for sports investment or sports itself in terms of the education bit. So when we say sports, we must always say education, because otherwise what's happening is that you'll end up creating a whole lot of sportsmen, and there will be life and livelihoods and sort of education and education will not be able to sort of deliver the jobs that are required. So we need to have that linkage. So I look forward to welcoming you during this conversation again, and creating a thriving sports industry with a great amount of private sector investment. But all I can say, in the Northeast, you definitely need the government. That's why I emphasize it has to be a public-private partnership. So good luck to all of you. Thank you for joining us and making the time. James, you lose a little bit of sleep, not much, I suppose, but if we end on time, you'll be all right. Thanks, Shumitra, and thanks everybody for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjit. Thank you very much for those lovely words. May I invite Mr. Robert Roythy to say a few words before we can go open the floor for questions, please. Mr. Robert, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Please go ahead. Please carry on. Yeah.
Hello?
Yes. The
Good
floor is
afternoon.
yours.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Ranjit. It is indeed a great opportunity and great honor for me to be invited to address this unique webinar with such august participants. I thank and congratulate the FIGI for organizing this event, which concerns a very important subject and one which is gaining more and more relevance in our country and also in my own state also. As we all know, sports is an industry full of passion, full of feelings, euphoria, and also sometimes causing big disappointments also. And for both the fans, the players, the athletes, and even the owners of the club. But you see, the sports industry is growing at a rapid speed, outpacing the GDP growth of many countries. With high competition and a promising future, businesses are booming in the sports industry, and they are expected to grow exponentially in the next few years. It is said that sport industry is the fastest growing industry. Studies have revealed that new markets are emerging even in the developing countries. And you see, North America only contributes 30% of the global market in sports sector. Coming to the context of India, the importance of sports has been rising steadily in emerging economies, including India, resulting in the increase of government spending on the development of sports industry, especially into setting up sports infrastructure, building teams in sports, and attracting large investments. For example, the plan of the Chinese government to increase the value of sports industry in the country to $813 billion by 2025 is resulting in the new flow of investment into sports activities. And which include events, facilities, teams, leagues, and other programs. Similarly, for 2018-20, Government of India has set aside an increased budget for the Khelo India program to promote sports industry in the country. And Khelo India is such a very inclusive and big program, which includes all the state governments also. And my next point is very crucial to me, because sports has been the pivotal links between the mainland India and the Northeast India, and it has huge impact on socio-cultural and also economic relationship between the mainland India and Northeast India. As you know, Northeast has been having, you see, a sense of regionalism, and also the Northeastern states have been hugely alienated and isolated, maybe because of the wrong notion on the part of the people of both Northeast and the mainland India. But after the Northeast youth and the Northeast players joined the national mainstreams in various sport disciplines, mainland India and Northeast India have been properly linked up. And you see, at present, according to some assessment, about 40% of the ISL, Indian Super League and I-League players are from Northeast India. And coming to Mizoram State, Mizoram is said to be the most peaceful and maybe the most beautiful state in India, but most isolated in terms of culture and also in terms of geographically as well. In spite of its isolation and remoteness, there is huge potential for sports in Mizoram. And you see, I would like to share one fact regarding the archery in Mizoram. Mr. Lalrem Sanga, who is presently working as my deputy director in my own sports department, was qualified for Barcelona Olympics and Atlanta Olympics way back into 1994 and 98. And during that period, there was not even a single archery equipment in Mizoram. But in spite of such absence of, you see, necessary equipment, Lalrem Sanga would qualified for Barcelona Olympics. Such is the situation. And even as Ranjitji has already mentioned, as for Aizawl Football Club, which became champion in 2017, when my club became champion in 2017 at the National League, Mizoram has no qualified football ground. After becoming national champion in India, we need to play. We have been promoted to Asia Level League at the group stage, and we need to use Guwahati football ground as our home ground because of absence of qualified football ground in the state of Mizoram. In spite of such hindrance and such difficulties, a good number of Mizoram sports persons could qualify at the national level, international level as well. And presently also, a good number of hockey players are at the national hockey game for preparing for the next Olympic in Tokyo. And boxing also, we have a good number of international players. Even the professional players are there in Korea and other countries for fighting the professional boxing. And of course, we have good talents in badminton. Ranjitji has just mentioned that we have a tie-up with Kopichan Badminton Academy with the support of the Tata Trust. And I have a firm belief that in the near future, Mizo badminton settlers will represent India in the larger context at the region and even world level. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please
Hello?
carry on. Yes,
Yeah,
I can hear you.
Yeah. Understanding the potentiality of the youth of Mizoram, my government, under the leadership of Mr. Zoramthanga, the very potential and dynamic Chief Minister, we give due focus and due significance, due recognition to the importance of sports. And within 365 days of our assumption of office, we formulated the Mizoram sports policy, which is prepared in line with the Olympic Charter, and it has been already notified. And we have also instituted the Mizoram State Games, which is said to be the largest games in terms of disciplines and in terms of participation in India, in spite of Mizoram being a very small state. All the MLA constituencies contested at the state level. Then coming to the next point, you see, Mizoram government recently granted industry status to sports, and we believe that this would, you see, pave the way for sustainable development of sports in a larger perspective. And from this particular point, I would like to extend our appreciation of FIGI intervention for enlightening us and for organizing this type of webinar, because we are all new in the context of granting industry to sports. And as we all know, the new education policy of India, which is being notified soon, and of course it is at its final stage, sports will be a part of education. It will no longer be co-curricular activities, it will be curricular activities from the near future. So government of Mizoram has proper convergence with of the school education department with the sports department. And once the education becomes, sports become education, I do hope that huge leap will be there in the sports sector. And taking advantage of this opportunity, I'd like to request each and every participant to invest more in Mizoram, because the government of Mizoram is more than 100% ready to cooperate, to partner, to venture together with even government and private parties within and outside of the country. And I do assure you that all possible help, all possible assistance, even if it is, you see, in terms of rules, law, and even legal system, the government of Mizoram is ready to work with the corporates, private corporates, and industries for the promotion of sports. And lastly, as a tourism minister, coincidentally, I'm also holding the post of the portfolio of tourism. I would like to request all of you to promote sports tourism, adventure tourism, and paragliding is also, you see, we have a very good location in Mizoram for paragliding, which is said to be the best in Asia, according to the paragliders who came last year for paragliding competition. So, in short, then I would like to tell you that government of Mizoram is so committed to promote sports as industry, to promote sports as education, and also to promote sports as a livelihood activities, and also to promote sports as a profession. And we are ready for all kinds of commercialization of sports from the government side, and potential is there. And the human resource, according to my simple understanding, that human resource is there for some disciplines, especially badminton, table tennis, judo, archery, football, and also boxing. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rakhi. Very encouraging. James, I would like to put things in perspective for you, because you may not be able to connect everything that the minister said. That's largely because the sports ecosystem in Australia is very different from what we do in India. Just to put a little perspective for you, so that you can maybe give your version, is that the Indian government has embarked on something called a Fit India movement. This is aimed at, at every state, every kid, is to make them physically fit and embrace sport as a culture. That is something that the Indian government is driving across states. The sports minister of India, this was the second day he had met the sports ministers of all the states. I don't know whether he met the Mizoram minister, but he was not. Mizoram was not on the day one list. What we are trying to do is we are trying to make sure that every kid who goes to school takes up some physical activity as part of the education system, not something separately, so that they emerge as a fit country, so that, you know, the goodness of being fit finally, maybe 10 years, 12 years down the line, reflects in terms of medals at an international competition, maybe the Olympics. That's what basically is the module. For that, India has something called the Khelo India Games. Khelo India Games are a concept that brings together the youth of India, the school children of India, to play games. It has excellence centers, about 1,000 odd excellence centers across the country, and wants the state to excel. This is something in India that we call is self-reliance. This is a concept that has emerged, and that is what the Fit India movement is trying to get at the end of the day, is to make India self-reliant in terms of fitness and sports awareness. This is a long-term plan, and of course the states have to participate. Now, if you have to participate in sport, there is a money that is involved. Now, where do you get that money from? Obviously, the government will fund you a bit, and then of course, the state also has to get its own money to support an ecosystem. We will come to the gentleman from Odisha.
Sorry, Mr. Boss. We have been actively participating in the endeavor for promotion of sports at the national level, and as a government, and also as an organization also. And I participated in the video conferencing meeting this forenoon also. And
that's what I said.
In our slot is in the day 2. And
yes.
I was speaking about the Fit Mizoram movement also. In fact, Fit Mizoram movement was launched 5 months ahead of Fit India movement.
And that's excellent. So, that's
we have been.
We have been. Now you're getting a perspective of this discussion. Like, what are we talking about? What are we trying to achieve? What the government is trying to achieve? What
Mizoram
is trying to achieve?
Mizoram, Aizawl happened to be one of the 8 states being selected for Khelo India State Center of Excellence. And I have expressed my appreciation of the objectivity of the Sports Ministry for selecting Mizoram, because we truly deserve to be selected as in the first batch of the Center of Excellence to be funded under Khelo India scheme. And we have been benefiting hugely from Khelo India scheme from the beginning. And at presently also, we are on the verge of, you see, we are constructing 3 football grounds under Khelo India scheme. All will be, you see, artificial turf will be laid in all the 3 football fields. And
thank you. I think, James, now you've got getting a little picture of the whole idea. That, you know, that it is the government which is trying to influence the states to become fit, and Mizoram has been in the forefront. Is definitely not one of the blessed, the states in India. It's right at the northeast corner, and yet, despite all the odds, they have surmounted. They've been able to produce numerous champions. It could be football, it could be archery, and there's something as new as paragliding. Having heard this, can you give us an Australian perspective?
Well, thank you, Sumitra, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of the webinar today. Can I say at the outset that I'm extremely impressed to hear from the Minister in Mizoram, and to hear his vision for sport in the state, not only for sport to be an industry in itself, but also the role that it plays in building a happy and healthy and successful community. I think it's incredibly important to keep those high-level principles that I think are often underestimated in government. But to hear that from an honourable minister speaking with such passion and commitment is something that is really powerful, I think. From an Australian perspective, I think sport is very much a part of the Australian way of life, and I think that's largely recognised by government. We have in Australia 3 levels of government. We have the federal, at national level, we have state governments, and then have local municipalities. All of them invest in their own way into sport, and all of them recognise that as part of the Australian way of life, we need to continue to fulfil that. I think it does start with activity, and it does start with belief that we want our kids, boys and girls, to come through school, to be playing sport, to be active, to understand particularly the benefits of team sport. And to that end, it's not only encouraged, but it is also the facilities are there for all. And so each level of government will invest in their own way. Municipal councils and governments will invest a lot in local communities, but so too will state bodies. The federal body tends to invest more into major events and major stadiums around the country. So probably, that's what I would say. I would draw those observations about government in Australia being committed, and it was very interesting to hear the way that India is moving in that regard.
James, you headed a body called the Coalition of the Most Professional Sports Bodies, and that included cricket, rugby, football, tennis. I mean, we don't have such a body. How does this work? Because every sport that you've chosen, the 7 sports that you've chosen, are all big in their own ways. So how do you get all the CEOs together and play for a unique dream?
I think it comes back to that overall belief that whilst in many ways those 7 sports that you mentioned are quite fierce competitors, competing for fans, competing for talent, and competing for even community participants, I think we all as a collective viewed again that position of sport in the community and the way that it galvanises people, it brings people together, it's inclusive, and it allows our community to be happier and healthier. So we started from that, common view, and we felt that there were, in many ways, opportunities for us to share information, but also to work with government. A lot of our work was protecting our position with government in terms of legislation or regulation, but it was also promoting opportunities with government. One particular initiative that I recall is that we all got together at one stage to develop a program that was instituted throughout primary schools within Australia, which involved after-school activities. So making it for those children whose parents perhaps had to work later in the day, so say the school hours finished at 3 o'clock, there would be a program of sporting activity between 3 and 5 that government schools would offer. It would allow kids to benefit from playing sport and being active, but it was something that we sponsored in partnership with government, and something that was very effective and continues to be a very effective program for our children to be more active.
Can I ask Sumit? Sumit, Odisha is one state that has really shown the way. You've been actively involved with Odisha sports for 3 years. I mean, the topic of this subject is that states driving growth through private investments. How has this worked for Odisha?
Thank you. So Odisha, what they've been able to do is almost unprecedented with regards to the Indian sporting ecosystem. Am I audible?
Yes, you're fine. Please go ahead.
Right. So with specifically speaking with regards to our high performance center models, which we are now in the process of setting for a multitude of sports, what we've been able to do is bring a corporate and bring a sports expert into the fold in the form of partnerships, in order to create these high performance centers across sports. So we've got athletics, we've got football, we've got weightlifting, we've got hockey, so and many other such sports. The idea is on the private investment front, the two avenues essentially that one could look to explore. The first part of it, which is tapping into corporate social responsibility of certain corporate partners, has been explored through the high performance center model that I just alluded to. What can then happen thereafter is, uh, you know, the government's primary responsibility is to sort of set up an ecosystem, which then becomes conducive for other private players to then come and operate in an effective manner. So operational feasibility of private partners is then a factor that then becomes important. So that sort of becomes the next step where it becomes feasible for other private players to come and set up infrastructure or to come and provide elite coaching opportunities, to participate in the form of sports technology related initiatives and those sort of things. So that's where we're sort of at right now with the high performance centers. We've already done one part of the activity, but there's more that we would be keen on doing.
The government yesterday said that, the principle of one sport and one state. Now, Odisha is one state that maybe has about 7, 8 excellence centers.
That's
How
right.
does this work?
So Odisha's perspective was we went with the outlook that we pick certain priority sports in the state, and once we've zeroed in on what those priority sports are, which could have been across multiple reasons as to why those were the priority sports, we went ahead and started roping in partners in order for Odisha to then become a hub of sports in the country, and contribute effectively not just to athletes from Odisha but also from other parts of the country to come and get access to top quality coaching. That was the idea behind setting it up for multitude of sports. From the center's perspective, one state, one sports works really well, simply because it is giving everybody a role. They're making every state a custodian in the joint exercise of development of sport collectively. But from Odisha's perspective, sports being a very, very key facet of the vision of Honorable Chief Minister, it became, uh, you know, it worked out that we ended up starting these for multiple sports with forging partnerships, not just with private partners, with sports experts and federations. So that's how the relationship has been able to, that's how it has evolved, the relationship with all of these stakeholders.
Yeah, I'm very sure, because this is a work in progress that you have to keep experimenting with things and see what works the best. Rajesh Kharbanda is the managing director of Media. They produce sports news. Rajesh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Rajesh, what is your observation in terms of sports growth and particularly states? How has it progressed? Because I'm sure your company supplies sports kits across India.
See, the sports industry, as a sports manufacturer, equipment manufacturer, has the largest stake in the growth of sports. If the sports is played, then only the sports equipment would be consumed. So nobody has a bigger stake in the sports growth than the sports manufacturer. And I'm very glad to observe that these two states of the East and Northeast, Odisha and Mizoram, has got one of the most progressive sports policy in the country. I have an opportunity to visit Mizoram sometime back. I'm pleasantly surprised to observe the level, the dedication, and the growth of the sports which has happened. Now, what happens that as the investment, as commercial organization, we invest into sports or a state when the sport is growing. Our association with Mizoram goes back many years when they had started putting a lot of effort in football. And we have been since then the partners in the grassroots level and many other things. So as the industry is, as the sports is pushed, consumption grows, the commercial activity grows, and there is a larger participation. It's the whole of the economy which is affected by it. We observe that states which have invested in the sports infrastructure to begin with has also made more people participate in the game. So with the basic, first thing comes with the creation of a sports infrastructure, and then the regular participation in the sports. And as the regular participation grows, the consumption grows, and with the sports, it is a lot of products which come along with sports. It's a huge economic activities. I think many times we ignore when we are talking about the media participation, we are talking about league, but we ignore that with sports also comes a construction part, which are the stadiums, comes the hostels where people live, catering, then the consumption of sports, and it's a whole ecosystem of contribution to the economy of the state. When some state, like a small state like Mizoram, start putting up their resources into sports, the effect is huge, both for the sport manufacturer and the state in general.
James, I have a question. I mean, India obviously flushed with sponsors. You've been part of the 2015 World Cup, you're part of the T20 World Cup that's going to come up. How do you see the role of private investors in investing in sport?
I would not be talking much about the general investors. Okay, in Mizoram, particularly if I take up the case of Mizoram has very smartly associated sports as somebody said that it's a very gender neutral state. There are a lot of interest in sports. The sponsors, other than the sports companies, gain when there is a huge participation. Anybody who's associated with the sports, the viewers, they all observe the brand, and the sports loving population also go for the brands which are associated with the sport. So it's an opportunity for a lot of brands, the consumer brands and all kind of commercial organization to put their money into sports, to be seen as the real contributor for the growth of sports. This is a book with traffic. I think companies, anybody who invests in sports today is definitely going to have a lot more respect from the consumer.
James, my question is also directed to you. In fact, how do you see the role of private investors or corporates? Is it just for the mileage of the brand, or they really want the sport to develop?
No, I think increasingly, I think sports are being held to account by commercial partners who want more from the association with the sport or indeed the event, and that's something that whilst it might, in some ways, it might align with their brand, there are other things that they're wanting, and part of that is also partnership with government. I think the opportunities for corporate entities to be associated with progressive initiatives from government is increasingly an opportunity and something that corporates are looking towards.
Yeah, you also mentioned that a large part of the development involves the engagement of women or female players. So where do you see where is Australia? I mean, in this entire exercise.
So I think we are very much focused on making sure that the opportunities for girls and women in sport are the equal of the opportunities for boys and men. And I think historically that hasn't been the case. There are a lot of male-dominated sports that have traditional sort of male values or backgrounds, and indeed the administration even of those sports are very male-centric. Government is increasingly focused on evening that up, and in fact recently across Australia there's been a huge raft of investment into community facilities that allow changing rooms specifically for females, so changing rooms for sport, which have been either on one hand male only, or two in such a bad state that you would never let a female go there. The government has been very focused on spending money on infrastructure, toilets, changing rooms, everything, to ensure that sporting grounds, sporting facilities and sporting clubs are welcoming of females in a way that perhaps they haven't been in the past.
That's fantastic to hear. I mean, So my question is follows to Mr. Royte, that Mizoram is a gender equal. You said there's gender equality. How is Mizoram treating its female athletes or sports persons?
Hello. Hello.
My question to you, sir, and my question is: you heard James speaking about the prominence given to women athletes in Australia. How is it that you planned it for the Mizo athletes in your state for the development process?
Yeah. You see, thank you very much. You see, the performance of girls in various sports disciplines are fairly lagging behind compared to the performance of males in sports sector. For example, in football, Mizoram have had become champions in almost all the national level championships, age group as well as seniors. We have become champions in national games. We have become champions in Santosh Trophy. We have become champions in under 21, under 17, under 19, and under 14, in all categories, even in club footballs as well as the you see the tournaments or interstate. But it is for the boys. But if we see the performance of girls in football, we are really lagging behind, and it is the high time now for us to address to the aspirations and to the needs of the girls footballers. And very interestingly, from my own club, Aizawl Football Club, one or two girls have already joined national game, and they have represented India. But in general, performance of girls in these major games are not up to the mark. But coming to judo, hockey, and boxing, our girls are doing very well, and girls have represented national team, national India in these three disciplines. And presently also the Miss Larem Siami, one young under 19 girl, is the playmaker in the Indian national hockey team, who are going to play in the Tokyo Olympic. So potential is there, but we have to properly address the requirements of girls players in various.
What are your expectations from private partners, if at all?
Yeah, my expectation is very high, because as of now, also Government of Mizoram, pursuant to the sports policy, we are going to establish five sports school in various districts of Mizoram, and we have already got sanction for the same also. And all the sports school will be state-of-the-art school with world-class infrastructure. And with this, with the establishment of this full-time sports school, I do hope that huge, you see, improvement will be there in the performance of the sports person at the younger age. Ultimately, if performance is good at the age level, performance in the senior level will follow suit.
Sumit, I have this question. I mean, Odisha has obviously taken many steps forward than others have. How has it been with your partners, with your private partners, in the sense that, we know Odisha Mining is there are other partners who are working with you. What is your reaction, that how has this association gone so far? You're in mute. Sumit, you're in mute.
Yeah. So if you look at the modalities of the partnership, I think the roles are very, very clearly defined across the partners that are part of the high performance center, right? One of the key drivers behind having a technical partner on board was to take care of all the sporting related activities. For private partners, of course, some of our partners that we have are already private entities that have been vested into sports even before they came into partnerships with us. For them, again, it was an opportunity to create more impact through their association with us. And that commitment that they've anyways shown has followed through into their relationships with us as well. So that's played out really, really well for us in terms of these partnerships. For some of the others, it was a foray into being able to significantly impact the sporting landscape in the state of Odisha and extrapolating it to India. And there again, the relationship has been very congenial, and I think one of the biggest reasons why this has worked for us is because of the expertise and professionalism that has been built into the structuring of the centers. So I think it's working out really, really well, and it's something which other states should most certainly be looking at exploring, because I believe there will be willing partners to, as long as there's enough common goals, aligned goals with all partners concerned, there should be a lot of traction available on these initiatives for other states as well.
Absolutely. Any long-term partnership, there must be complete alignment. And before we close, my final question, James, you are also part of the Deccan University Business School. Deccan University operates in India. They have partners in India. Do you see at the foreseeable future India and Australia collaborating on
Mr. Bose, can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
May I interrupt once, please? Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I can. Please go ahead.
Since you are going to close the program, let me say some few words.
I will come back to you. I have a question for James, then I'll come back to you. Give me 2 minutes.
Okay, please. Okay, thank you very much.
James, please go ahead. James, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, my question was that, is there a possibility of collaboration between India and Australia in terms of development of sports? Because obviously Australian systems are far more mature.
Look, I absolutely believe in Ranjit made some, I think, really clear and important comments around the importance of education and sport and how the two go together. I think that education is clearly what you learn at school or university, but it's also what you learn on the job by various experiences. And the university that I'm involved in at Deccan University has one of the best sports management programs in the world. Indeed, hundreds of Indian students coming every year on postgraduate courses to study sports management. And so I think those opportunities are definitely there. The fact that sport is now an industry and there are incredibly significant opportunities career-wise for people in sport means that education is something that shouldn't be lost. It's not just about athletes who can make it to the top and make a career playing sport. There's a whole industry out there, industry of opportunity for people to be involved in it, not only the administration of the sport, but also in the education programs, development, physical education. All of those aspects of it are incredibly important as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's nice to hear. Sir, Robert Wright, so please go ahead. You wanted to say something?
Yes. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Yes. You see, Mizoram having such a policy and commitment from the government and from the community at large also, and of course, sporting associations are also all keen to work together with some private players or some private entities. I would like to express our sincere and our serious and sincere desire to work with private partners for promotion sports or for promotion of sports in Mizoram. The topography is conducive. The commitment of the government of Mizoram is also satisfactory. very high, and also there is political will even. So I would like to invite the FIGI and also other corporates to invest for sports promotion in Mizoram. And we really appreciate Odisha government in doing such a wonderful job. And I'm very happy that my own hockey player, Lorem Siami, the rising star of FIH, is wearing the shirt where Odisha is written on the front of the Indian team. Thank you very much for that also. And
Thank you, sir.
hello, yes, yeah. Okay. Thank you all of you, and certainly we will sit together with officers concerned, and we will pursue whatever discussion we have. All the points have been properly noted, and certainly we will take maximum benefits out of this webinar. Thank you very much. And my secretary, Mr. Laleng Moya, he is also the Secretary of Health Department. He is also willing to speak something about maybe about Corona and other health issues.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Very good afternoon to you all. First of all, I would like to, on behalf of the state government and the health department of Mizoram, express our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Ranjit Thakurji for having donated so many medical equipment like PPE, hand sanitizer, ventilator, N95 masks, 3-layer masks, and gloves, so on and so forth. It is really because of your timely support in terms of such equipment that the state government has been able to cope up with the need arising from ever increasing number of COVID positive cases. Thank you very much. And the kind of gesture that you have shown to the state government will long be remembered. We really appreciate and we are really proud of you for that. And as far as the sport is concerned, yes, my minister has by and large covered the whole, almost the whole spectrum of the policy decision, the dreams, the vision of the state government in a few minutes' time. So on my part, what I would like to supplement is this, that as very rightly pointed out by the Honorable Minister, we're going to create a number of sports infrastructures with the fund that we have received from the Ministry of Tribal Affairs and also from the fund that we are expecting from the external funding agencies. And the Mizos, the state government, believe that. I mean, I would like to tell you like this, to put in a very simple manner. 3 of the Mizo mountaineers have conquered Mount Everest, the highest point on earth. But we feel that not many Mizos would be able to set foot on the top of the Mount Everest. But as far as the sport is concerned, we believe that there is Mount Everest in each and every sports discipline. Mount Everest is to win a medal at the international level that is called, that is at the Olympic. So we have been educating, we have been encouraging, we have been urging, we have been nurturing our sports personalities to try and have vision and dream and determination to win medals at the Olympic competitions. That is how the state government has been taking up the whole issue as far as the sports sector is concerned. Now, with the formulation of the sports policy in Mizoram, and with the granting of the industry status to the sports department, we feel that we have now opened the door for private players and corporate bodies to come and invest in Mizoram, because we need cooperation, we need partnership with different stakeholders from outside the state. So we are going to take up different projects in partnership with the interested parties, private or whatever, from outside. So I would like to, on behalf of the sports department, invite the corporate bodies, the private players, individuals, whoever, may kindly come over to Mizoram, because it is a green field for your investment towards promotion of the sports in the state and in the country, because given the kind of fine system of governance and ease of doing business, egalitarian society, the climate, the topography, peace, tax regime. See, Mizoram is is really a green field for the sports lovers and for all those who are interested in promotion of the sports to come and invest here and to promote sports sector in Mizoram for the interest of the entire country. With these few words, I once again thank you very much. Thank you.
Last point only, you see, for manufacturing also, Mizoram is such a conducive and congenial, suitable place, because nearness to Myanmar and nearness to Bangladesh also provides golden opportunity for marketing. And I am very happy that from the Nivea managing director is also with us, and I would like to thank on behalf of the football fraternity that the support of Nivea for the Mizoram Football Premier League has been instrumental and pivotal for such a long time. And please do continue the good deeds. And please do manufacture your products here in Mizoram also, because a vast market is there in Burma and Bangladesh. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, thank you.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Pankaj, can you close it?
Thank you very much, analyst with the honorable our core has just logged out, not to log in again. So on behalf of the chair sports committee, Mr. Gupta, I would just like a message and for the states. So states, court state needs to recognize the sports both as societal agent of change to drive it and designed to invest in them. So unquote. So basically, we look to work with the states in this vision, and we hope that the states will, of course, encourage the private investments to come in and handhold and. So thank you with this. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
So, can you hear me, gentlemen? Hello.
Department of Government of Odisha.
Can you hear me? Hello.
Much have an.
Hello.
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 Hello. Yes. Yes. We can hear you.
Is James there? James? Okay, I think we seem to have lost James. On behalf of FICCI, I'd like to thank Minister Robert Roite, Sumit Pandey, and Rajesh Kharbanda to participate and find some time for this webinar. I'm sure this is not the first one we're going to have. We're going to have much more. And we wish both Mizoram and Odisha lot of luck so that India can really become a fit nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.